That is the easiest song to sing along to on all of podcasts because the only words are nerds. That's us. My name is John Polnik. I'm your nerd host, as well as my partner, Michael Deeb, the other nerd. We are the nerds. Bid nerds, to be more specific. How you doing, Michael Deeb?
Good morning, JP. Look at this, a Porsche with a lift kit. Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, we're going to get after it in just a second here. What we do on this show, if you don't know already, if you're new to the shows, we find the most interesting car of the day from all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. Then we talk about that car. We include you in that conversation. We make a prediction as to what we think that car will sell for at the end of its auction. We find out which one of us is right and which one of us is wrong. I don't know which one of us is usually right and wrong between you and I, Michael Deeb. I don't know.
Oh, it's up for debate, but I think it's always me.
I don't know. I have an unfair advantage because you always go first. But look, we want to hear from you guys. What do you think is the most interesting car of the day in a future auction? Maybe we'll choose that car and feature it on our show. So let us know on an episode coming up real soon. Maybe we will talk about the car that you think is most interesting. Hit the subscribe, like, notification button. We got to tell you to do that. People, they just watch the show, they nerd out with us, but they don't hit the subscribe button. What the heck, man? Hit the subscribe button. Help a nerd out. You're a nerd if you're watching this show. If you're here, you're just as nerdy as us. You got the same problems as we do. So, help a nerd out. Get after it. Subscribe, like, notification button. Share one of these videos to another nerd, and let's nerd right now. Michael Deeb, this car today, what the heck is going on with it?
Oh, my God.
What do we got here?
How cool is this car? Obviously offered in your backyard. I'm guessing you know the owner. Maybe I know the owner and just didn't realize this was his car. This is a 1981 Porsche 924 Turbo with a Safari build, showing just 58,000 miles on the 5-digit odometer, offered out of Blue Diamond, Nevada. This 924 has a rebuilt motor, and then more importantly, a 1.5-inch lift kit. It's got super cool BF Goodrich all-terrain TA KO2 tires, which really make this whole. And then the coup de joie is a little roof rack with 4 hella lights, a shovel, and a full-size spare. As I mentioned, the motor was rebuilt, and all of the parts have been treated to placements. Thermostats, fuel regulators, fuel pumps, water pumps, everything on this car has been redone. This car sat dormant for a long time, but prior to being put away, this car was treated to a repaint in Indiana red metallic. And then I think most of the interior is basically stock or original. Super cool car. It looks the part with this sort of Clark County, Nevada desert backdrop. Really cool car that I've never seen in person, but I suspect we know who it is. JP, I got to tell you, just looking at the photos, it makes me want to make one for myself. Like, I really want a 924 or maybe a 944 Safari that I could rock around here in the Bay Area. This thing looks uber cool. It's worth noting that with this being a turbo 924, car makes about 150 horsepower, but more importantly, makes over 155 pound-foot of torque. So while it's probably not fast, it definitely has enough power to get out of its own way. An interesting and probably pretty cool platform from which to build the car. So, John, I'm going to ask you straight up, do you know the car and have you driven it? What a neat build.
I do know the car. I have not driven it. I saw this car in a garage. So this car was in our good friend Dwayne Wick. Check out his YouTube channel, Wick's Garage. Dwayne was kind of part of this project. He got when this car. When him and John got this car, they brought it into Dwayne's garage, and Dwayne tore it apart. He stripped this thing down to every last bolt. All the interior, everything was taken out of this car. Also check out, hey, while you're at it, we just started a new podcast called the Dur or Die Porsche podcast. Go check out that brand new YouTube channel. We had some Dur or Die podcast episodes on Durfasa Nation, but we've decided to move it over to its own channel. Dwayne and I publish that show twice weekly. That's Tuesdays and Thursdays. So check out Dur or Die with my partner, Dwayne Wick. But look, he's not the one that built this car, but he did have a hand in it. And I know that the builder of this car he's not just any builder. You mentioned it's like, oh, I'd love to build something like this and have it done, but the question we'll get to at some, sooner than later as to what we think this car's value is, and what it'll sell for. I guarantee whatever number that is, you're not building this car for that. There's whatever this car brings, it would cost you twice as much to build this.
Exactly.
I know.
Agreed.
John is one of the best car painters in the business, not just in Nevada. He's pretty well known. He's one of these guys that knows he's like an Emery style kind of like, okay, if you need to restore a 356, his projects are just amazing. And I remember when they took this on, it was like, wow, this seems odd that someone with his skills would take on what I think is actually called a 931. Dwayne told me it's a 931. I guess that's the turbo That's the turbo version of the 924. It looks like it's got one of those little toupees on the dashboard, which is what I would do. Look, this car, that paint job is going to be so much better than any 924 paint job you're going to find anywhere. And it's almost like, okay, you're going to take this car out in the dirt. When he first completed the car, and it wasn't even totally complete, when it was kind of first assembled before it had a roof on it, I actually made him an offer on this car.
Really?
And that was almost, God, that was at least 6 months ago, maybe closer to a year. And so really what this car, we've seen the Keens and the Kelly, Kelly cars, Kelly Moss car, off-road cars. We've seen this Safari thing happen. Is the Safari thing, has it seen its top? Are we still doing this? Are people going to pay the big money for this car? And is PCar Market the platform? When I saw that this car was on PCar Market, I was just like, what? This is not the platform to bring the most money for this car. This is definitely a BAT thing. But I got to wonder if it was kind of one of these things where he finally got around to selling the car, where he's like, all right, well, I don't want to wait to be into the fall, which is what you're going to do if you're going to put it on BAT. This car any car that you put on BAT is going to take at least 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months or more.
2 months or more.
Yeah. So do you really want to be trying to sell this thing in October? I don't know. So
JP,
bringing it to market right now.
Did you notice it's no reserve?
Yeah, on PCar Market. I will be paying attention to this car because,
oh my God.
I could absolutely see purchasing this. The question is whether or not this car will go for what I offered him for it or less. I suspect it'll bring more than what I offered at the time, but I definitely think that the market is softening, and this car will suffer from that. Will he make more money, though, than what I offered? I don't know. Remains to be seen. This thing is as good as it gets. Again, completely rebuilt engine, completely repainted by an absolute expert, and a lot of talented people touched this car. I don't know if I'd drive it in San Francisco. You want to buy this thing and drive it in San Francisco?
Yeah,
somebody would steal that rack, dude. You can't have all that stuff. You have to take the rack off. That shovel would be gone, and somebody. I don't know.
I'd have to park it in a private parking garage, like a house garage, and then I could take it like on a rally or something. But yeah,
you wouldn't be able to park it in downtown. Yeah,
that stuff. They would steal the wheels off that car. I'd have to put wheel locks on it, in San Francisco. Good God!
Is that an air conditioning unit? I wonder if the AC works.
Yeah,
look at that.
It does, and he converted it to what do they call it? What's the conversion?
R30, 134. Yeah,
134. Yeah, so he did the conversion. So it's a very methodical and thought out build. I agree with you. John is a super talented painter. So without me having seen this car in person, just looking at that main photo, it's a mirror-like finish. This is gonna be a beautiful car. I really want to drive it. It just looks like it would be a boatload of fun. JP, with 6 days to go, our car is sitting at only $1,924. I agree with you. I'm sure that there's $60,000 spent on this car, if not more. But I wonder, would $25,000 be all that it brings on PCar Market? I kind of think that might be it. I don't know that this car is going to bring the money it should. I think John should have waited and put it on Bring a Trailer, especially if it's his intention to run it with no reserve. So, very interesting. I do believe the car is probably worth $35,000-$40,000, but if it brings more than 25, I'll be happy for him. But I don't, man, 25. That to me is sort of the watermark for this car on this platform.
Well, I mean, we just haven't seen any 931s anywhere for sale ever. We've talked about in other episodes how like cars like 964s used to be just hated and loathed, and nobody loved them. So most of them got beat up, and it's hard to find clean ones. If there's a car that's even more less liked when it comes to Porsche, it's certainly this car, or one of these rather, not this car specifically. 931s, 924 turbos have never been loved. They sucked. I remember driving all the ones I've ever driven have been driven hard, put away wet. I don't remember ever driving a nice one of these, one that drove the way it was from the factory. I'm sure it was better when they were new, but that powertrain is not known to be a good one. So yeah, I want to drive this car. Yeah, I suspect that this thing probably drives pretty darn good. It's probably a blast. All the power is probably in the last 200 RPMs.
I'm sure.
With this little Audi derived thing. How good is the transmission? I don't know. One thing I'd like to compare, or would like to compare if it were possible, which I don't think it is was he better off making this a Safari, or would he have been better off to just done his brilliant paint job and made it stock height and just made it as close to stock as possible? Would that have brought more money? I know Safari cars are a big deal. I don't know, and there's no way. I don't know if there's going to be a way to know. But you got a bid?
I don't think a 924 turbo, even repainted, would bring $20,000. I think this Safari will bring over 25 or 25 or more. If my bid is off, I think it's because this car brings more money. But I'm going to say $25,000, and it's only because we have nothing to compare it to. There are no comps for this platform with this type of build. So it's a true unknown. I'm just shocked that John decided to gamble on a iffy platform with a no reserve auction. So I think that takes a lot of cojones,
If I had to guess, I'd say it's a panic sell, because you're going, okay, things are softening. I better sell it and get all the money I can for it. Will things soften? Sure, but are they going to completely crash? I don't think so. I think it'd be worth the wait for a couple months. I don't think this is a car that suffers a sale in the wintertime, because this is a car that you could drive all year. This is not like a Cabrio 911 or something like that. This would be awesome to have if you lived in Denver or someplace on the East Coast where there's snow. Yeah, I mean, this would just be so much fun all the time. I really want this car. Your bid's 25?
Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, gosh, I mean, that's where I was going to go. I'll just say 22. I think I'll go just a little bit under you. I think it's going to be hard to break 20. I mean, we don't even see really nice 944s, S2s and stuff like that break 20. So even with all the cool doodads, is this a car, Michael Deeb, that someone could steal on PCar and bide their time and put back on BAT and double their money? I think the answer might be yes on that. And maybe one of us will be the one that does it. But I don't know. The thing is, if I bought this car, I don't think I'd flip it. I don't think I'd go and try to sell it. I want this thing.
Listen, if you can get this car for under 30, you're not selling it. You're going to hang on to it. But listen, because we know the people involved and because we love the build, I hope it brings $40,000 and that we laugh at ourselves next week when we cap this thing. But I don't know if this is the right platform for that, and it's a no reserve auction. I think there's a lot of risk here, considering how many time, money, and hours he's put into this car. So, see. Really
again, him being a builder himself, he isn't, and that's where I think a lot of these guys kind of. They make a big mistake because they don't count their time. Their time is worth so much more money. A guy like this could be spending all that time on a $200,000 build, and he's screwing around with a car that's going to be worth 20 or 30 something. The opportunity cost for him to have built this, I think, is extraordinarily high. I think what's going to happen if this car does bring some money is a bunch of dumbasses are going to start going out and buying beat up crappy 924s and throwing big tires on them and hoping that they can get the same big money. And that's not what this car is. This car is a real deal resto, done by someone who is an expert, and it was done right. Yeah. So, all right.
Very nice.
Well, good luck to those guys. Let's find out what this car brings right after this. Okay, guys, I want to tell you about Vegas Auto Fest. The drivers are coming. This is one of our big sponsors. It's the biggest car show of the year in Las Vegas. It's one of the coolest car shows you can possibly experience anywhere. If you haven't made plans to be part of Vegas Auto Fest on September 17th, then do it now. Go to vegasautofest.com and register your car. You think you're a car enthusiast? Doesn't matter where you live. Plan a trip to Vegas on September 17th and come out and see this show. It's like Monterey Car Week all in a day. Have you ever been to the Quail? Have you ever been to Works Reunion? Have you ever been to Amelia Island? All those car shows are amazing and great. Have you been to Luftkult? Sure, but Vegas Auto Fest is something special. Make a plan for September 17th. We'll see you in Vegas. One. And all right, guys, welcome back to Pit Nerds, your daily nerd on the most interesting cars today at all the automotive enthusiast auction sites. Boy, when we're off air, if you could hear what we talk about, maybe we should do a show on Rumble or something like that, just to so we can talk about some other stuff. But here we go. Okay, you guys were watching this episode. You're going, all right, this is a really crazy 924. We're going to do something a little different than what we usually do. Usually by the time we record this part, you get to see how much the car sold for. We don't know yet. We're actually recording this right now while this auction is still going on. There's still 2
minutes to go.
And it's at 19,181. There's a lot of action going on in this thing. What do you think,
JP? I gotta tell you, man, I'm sweating. I said $25,000. You took the under at 22. Now remember, this is a no reserve auction on PCar Market. And the car is offered out of essentially the Red Rock area of Vegas. And, we know the people that built this car. I'm shocked that they went, live with a net by not having a reserve to protect this asset. You're talking about a lot of faith in the smaller PCar Market pool. So with a minute and a half to go, our car has received 13 bids, which for PCar Market is pretty decent action. We'll see as this car comes down to the close if there's some late rally action, which will extend the time clock and allow this bid to go on. But again, it's at $19,181. If it doesn't get another bid, JP, do you think that's a fair number based on
Well, look, it's weird because yesterday was Sunday, and I was watching this auction because I'm actually interested in this car. I actually made an offer on this car before they put it up to auction. And it's weird because it was sitting all week at 4,000, crept up to 5,900, and then boom, yesterday afternoon on a Sunday there was a crazy rally, and we saw a $10,000 bump in 20 minutes. I was here in the studio doing some other work, and I kept hearing the chiming on my computer, and I go over there, what the F? Because I was sitting there going, all right, how does this usually work? Oh, wait, we're down to 30 seconds. It's rare that the day before you see a price increase of, maybe 100%, sometimes 150, but here we're talking about it was at 5,000, now it's almost at 20 with 13 seconds to go. What's going to happen here?
All the action has been this morning on the day of close. It's interesting that they don't have people sort of setting up. I'm down to just a few seconds, JP.
2 seconds here, 2 seconds. Wow.
Whoa, man. Brutal.
No late rally. That is pretty crazy. They're giving us the please wait thing. There's no reserve on this car. So whatever that number is, now sometimes late bids come in, says checking for last minute bids. This is a really, really interesting result. Still checking for last minute. 19,181. Just as a reminder, guys, this is the Turbo 924 Safari. Yeah, boy, we're killing time here. Just a second.
I will
while the
say,
system
yeah.
waits.
Let me fill in and say, and JP, you've worked with these guys more than I have, but like PCar Market's platform for checking stuff, it's entirely possible that they got a last minute bid and it didn't come through. So I'm refreshing my page every couple seconds to see if there was another bid, and the clock starts up again. The other thing is, even if that's the last bid, they won't post the result for quite some time because it says processing rather than either it winds up in the deal tank or the car is sold. It could take hours before they get a result. And that's because PCar Market wants to make sure they get their money and that their money clears before they post the result. And that sometimes takes a few hours, which is just really weird. It is. Yeah. Okay. So it says, I'm getting this auction has ended. And now it says the result is processing. The reality is it's a no reserve auction. So as long as they get paid, this is a sold car. So then the end result on this, so weird. So now I'm showing 38 bids instead of 13. So this car did get a lot of action. But $19,181 is not a lot of money. I wonder if the consignor is pleased with that, or this was just a means to an end. Run it as quickly as I can, do it no reserve, and I'll just take whatever the market yields. And the market on PCar Market is smaller than the market on Bring a Trailer. One has to know that the privilege of working with Bring a Trailer is basically a 6 to 10 week wait time to get your car listed. But then in the end, that's probably the best result you can get, so long as you brought it to market with, good copy, all the documentation to support it, and then decent photos and video, which I think your R8 has. There's great comments about the video on your R8 early on in your auction. But man, $19,000 for this build. I'm sure he's got twice as much money built into this car, right?
I mean, if you could quantify his time, this is nowhere near what the thing's worth. Look, I'm going to go ahead and say it on air, and I don't think I'm betraying any confidences. We know publicly that this car is a no reserve car. I think I said before the break that I personally was interested in this car, and I may have even said, look, my intention was to bid on this car up to $20,000, maybe even a little bit more. I probably would have bumped up to maybe 21, 22. Yesterday's rally in the middle of the afternoon, bringing this thing up to 17 or 18, nearly $18,000, made me say, okay, this is the day before and it's getting this kind of action. I got to think that at the end of this auction, it's going to go nuts, right? Because usually you get another at least 30% in the last day. So I thought this thing was going to hit closer to what I suspected which was 25. I'm sure on BAT this car would have brought $30,000, right? This for sure, this thing would have brought $30,000, maybe even more. This build is that good. And here's what I was going to say. Maybe 6 months ago, a year ago, when this car was done or nearly done. The car wasn't totally done, but I saw pictures of this car, let's call it at least 6 months ago. It didn't have the roof rack on it, but it was by and large, it was pretty much there. I offered the owner of this car $20,000. Yeah. So the owner of this car didn't take me up on my offer. Spent more money. I mean, I'm sure he probably had to spend money on the pictures. Maybe he didn't. I think he's friends with the photographer. But, that roof rack and those hella lights and all that stuff, how much more time did they spend on finishing this car? I'm sure it's a heck of a lot more than $800. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because you net this out. If I offered 20 6 months ago, before it had all the cool bits on the roof and maybe the lights, that's $800 more than the auction closed for, plus whatever other money you put into it. So the seller should have taken me up on the offer, and I would have, I really would have loved to have had this car. It's just so weird that I just, yesterday watching that late stage rally just made me say, I'm not bothering. And I knew that we'd be recording the show kind of, during the time that this car was closed. But if it were still down in the lower numbers, like it was yesterday, and crept up to here, we'd probably have seen a live Bid Nerd buying a car on our show because I would, like I said, I probably would have gone up to 21, 22, maybe even a little bit more, but I wasn't even queued up. I just wasn't, I'm not going to try to buy something while we're doing the recording. So this is a really interesting result given a lot of different factors. How does a late stage rally on an auction, does that scare people away at the last minute? Or is it better to have the number a little lower as you're getting into the final moments so people can get into that mode? Oh, I'm going to get a deal. Let's keep bidding. Let's keep bidding. This car was no reserve, man.
I know. I can't believe he didn't get a bid at the close of auction when it's a no reserve like that. And irregardless of what you may or may not have offered this guy, I got to think that, worst case scenario in his mind was still going to be at least $20,000 or more, and that didn't happen. I think for $19,000, it goes without saying that whoever put this car up is probably not thrilled with that result, even if it just moves the car and whatever it represents to him. He moves it on down the road, and sort of that, all right, now I got 19,000 in my pocket, onward and upward. But anyway, yeah, super, super interesting result. Bit of a heartbreak because that money was left on the table by choosing this platform over, I think the easy one is to say bring a trailer, but it would have taken time to get there, and who knows what the market will be in another month from now. So that's it's tough.
Yeah, I get we've talked about that a lot on other episodes. The gestation period on BAT is much longer. We talked about that earlier. But I think a car like this is far less susceptible to a lower price in the fall. If you're trying to sell a convertible or something that's, sporty, the market for those things really falls off regardless of
seasonal.
What's going on with inflation, recessions, all that, BS. It's just, this isn't a seasonal car. In fact, this car would be awesome in the wintertime. I mean, I want this thing in the snow. This would be bonkers fun to rip up Mount Charleston when it snows up there next time. What would you guess if you had to over under? What do you think the odds of seeing this car on BAT in a month or two is?
Oh, well, all right. Let's put aside for a second that BAT might have its own politics and might want to run a car that just closed. If we put that aside, really 50-50. Somebody got this car for, pennies on the dollar, really.
There it is, guys.
Yeah,
this price was a steal.
It's a steal.
Really
so
ticked
this
at
guy
myself
got the
for
car.
not paying attention to this.
So he probably could just enjoy it, but I expect maybe not in a few months, but I bet this guy enjoys the car for the winter, and then if he wants to get off of it, I would expect to see this car on Bring a Trailer again. I wouldn't be surprised if we see this car a couple more times over the next few years. It's a very interesting car, and it may or may not be for everybody. Even the guy who bought it might not like it only because it's such an unusual car. But I think it's really cool. I think somebody's going to enjoy the hell out of it, and somebody could turn around and sell it knowing they could make almost 100% their money.
Platform matters. This car, look, you were talking about how much action there was, how many bids for PCar Market, and quite a few.
38.
A lot of the comments were from people that are kind of known in the industry. Flying Hawaiian hopped in there and was talking about how great it was. And so the attention that was being paid to this car wasn't just a handful of yahoos. There were, people in the industry, which means a lot of people were looking at this auction that probably would not otherwise have done so on PCar Market. So who knows? Maybe those eyeballs, the smarter eyeballs, mean this car wouldn't be such an easy, flip for money over on one of the other auction sites. What do you guys think about this result? What do you think about this car? It is not your typical Porsche. It's not the typical
so cool
car in general. I mean, this is a really rare bird. What do you think about late stage rallies at the end of an auction versus a day before? How does that affect? Have you auctioned a car on BAT or PCar Market? What do you think? Do you think PCar Market is just fine? Would you be like, well, I'd put it on PCar just as... Which platforms do you guys like? We'd sure like to hear your comments and thoughts on this particular auction in the comments below. Do that right after you hit the subscribe, like, and notification button if you haven't already spread the word. Share a nerd. What was it?
Grow the herd. Grow the herd. Yeah.
It's a lot of rhyme. It's a lot of rhyming, guys. All right.
Dr. Seuss.
We will see you guys tomorrow.